Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to continue our Chapter 1, Unit 3. So in this channel, I am running a series of concept understanding topics of the CA Foundation Paper-1, Principles and Practice of Accounting. So today is our Chapter 1 Theoretical Framework, Unit 3 Accounting Terminology Glossary. This is the Part 5 video. Yes, this chapter consists of many definitions and theories. So I am continuing this chapter for 5 parts, and this is going to be the Part 5, and also I think if fortunate enough, this would be the last part. So if you are new to my channel, please give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel to understand all your accounting theories and concepts in very easy language. So let's start today's video. In part 4 video, I have completed or discussed till net realizable value. So our next topic or the first topic for today is obsolescence, starting with O. So let's start. Obsolescence. Obsolescence is the diminution in the value of an asset by reason of its becoming out of date or less usable due to technological changes. So, as the days pass by or the technological improvements occur, the technology involved in a machinery or involved in the process of production or the process of rendering a service changes. So, obsolescence occurs in case of an asset. What asset? A fixed asset, which is utilized in rendering of services or producing a product. So, obsolescence is the diminution or dimension or the reduction. Yes, obsolescence is the reduction in the value of an asset for becoming out of date or due to becoming less useful due to technological changes. Improvement in production methods, change in market demand for the product or service, output of the asset, or legal or other restrictions. So, a product or a service can become out of date or can become less useful due to technological changes, improvement in production methods, change in market demand for the product or service, or legal or other restrictions. So, obsolescence. In this video, I'm going to continue a bit faster. My speed is going to remain a bit fast to complete. This is the part 5 video, and I'm wishing to complete this chapter in this part 5 itself. So, obsolescence is the diminution, is the reduction in the value of an asset by reason of becoming out of date or less useful. Due to becoming out of date or less useful, the reduction in the value of an asset due to technological changes, improvement in production methods, change in market demand for the product or service, or legal and other restrictions. So in this diminution, I can write reduction. Diminution means reduction. For it would become easy to understand, diminution means reduction. Reduction in the value of an asset. So our next topic is operating profit. So operating profit consists of two words, operation and profit. So profit is the surplus of the proceeds from a product or service than the cost involved in producing the product or rendering the service. So what is operating profit? Operating profit. Operating profit is the net profit arising from the normal operations and activities of an enterprise without taking account of extraneous transactions and expenses of a purely financial nature. So, what is operating profit? Operating profit is the net profit arising from normal operations and activities. एक बिजनेस का एक नॉर्मल ऑपरेशन या फिर एक्टिविटी जो है उसके आधारित जो नेट प्रॉफिट है उसे ही हम लोग ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट कहते हैं. What is a normal operation or activity for a business? Either rendering a service, or producing and selling a product, or trading with a product. So, in the process, in the normal operation or activities, the net profit earned by the business without taking into account extraneous financial expenses, extra financial expenses, or secondary financial expenses, that type of net profit is called as operating profit. So what is operating profit? Operating profit is the net profit arising from the normal operations and activities of an enterprise without taking into account, yes, without taking into account extraneous transactions and expenses of purely financial nature. Financial secondary expenses are not taken into account while calculation of operating profit. Our next topic, paid up share capital. The part of the subscribed share capital for which consideration in cash or otherwise has been received. So, what is a subscribed share capital? Subscribed share capital is the part or portion of the called up share capital. Called up share capital is the portion of the authorized share capital that is asked by the company to the shareholders to be paid in a period of time. So, from the authorized share capital, paid up share capital or called up share capital comes from. For example, let me explain this with the help of an example with a diagram. So suppose this is the authorized portion, authorized share capital. This is the share capital that is authorized by the registrar of companies so that this amount can be drawn by the company from the shareholders. From this authorized share capital, this is the portion that is called up by the company to be paid. This portion is called up by the company from the shareholders to be paid. Among this portion, this is the portion that is for which cash is paid by the shareholders. This is the portion, sorry, this is Yes, this is the portion for which the company has asked for money from the shareholders, and this is the portion for which the shareholders has paid the cash to the company. So this portion is called this is the portion that is called the paid up share capital. The portion of the called up share capital for which cash is received, cash or any other thing is received by the company from the shareholders is known as the paid up share capital. So, what is paid up share capital? Paid up share capital is the part of subscribed share capital. Subscribed share capital वो portion of share capital, वो portion of authorized share capital होता है जिस portion को shareholders ने subscribe कर दिया है. The portion subscribed by the shareholders from the authorized share capital is called the subscribed share capital. So the portion of the subscribed share capital for which cash or otherwise has been received by the company is called a paid up share capital. This includes bonus shares allotted by the corporate enterprise. If any bonus share is issued by the company, then the bonus shares are also included in the paid up share capital. अगर एक कंपनी कुछ बोनस शेयर इशू किया है एक उनके शेयर होल्डर्स को, वो शेयर होल्डर्स का जो बोनस शेयर्स भी इंक्लूडेड है इस पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल में. So what is paid up share capital? It is a part of subscribed share capital. Paid up share capital is a part of subscribed share capital for which consideration in cash or otherwise has been received, and it includes bonus shares. Our next topic is preference share capital. So in our previous videos, in I think part 2 video, we have learned about equity share capital. So what is equity share capital? Equity share capital is the capital issued or recovered by the company by issuing of equity shares. What are equity shares? Equity shares are the shares which does not have preferential rights in payment of dividend or repayment of share capital, but equity share capital enjoys the voting rights within the company. Now it's time for paid up share capital. Now it's time for preference share capital. What is preference share capital? Preference share capital is that part of the share capital of a corporate enterprise which enjoys preferential rights in respect of payments of fixed dividend and repayment of capital. जिस भी शेयर कैपिटल is recovered or earned from the shareholders by issuing of preference shares. What are preference shares? Preference shares are the shares which carry preferential rights for the repayment of capital and payment of fixed dividend. Preference shares may also have full or partial participating rights in surplus profits or surplus capital. If there is any surplus within the company, preference shares might have full or partial rights in participating in the division or appropriation of that surplus profit. So, preference share capital क्या है? Preference share capital वो शेयर कैपिटल है जिसको इशू किया गया है या फिर शेयर होल्डर से लाया गया है प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स इशू करके. प्रेफरेंस शेयर क्या है? प्रेफरेंस शेयर आर दो शेयर्स. प्रेफरेंस शेयर वो शेयर है जिसके पास अपने कैपिटल को रीपेमेंट के टाइम पे या फिर एक डिविडेंड फिक्स डिविडेंड के पेमेंट के टाइम पे प्रेफरेंशियल राइट्स रहे at the time of payment of fixed dividend or repayment of capital. So preference share capital is a part of share capital of a corporate enterprise which enjoys preferential rights in respect of payments of fixed dividend and repayment of capital. Preference shares may also have full or partial participating rights. In the surplus or surplus profits or surplus capital. So our next topic is preliminary expenses. What is a preliminary expense? So preliminary expenses are the expenses relating to the formation of an enterprise. एक एंटरप्राइज या फिर एक कंपनी का बनने के लिए या फिर एक कंपनी को फॉर्म करने के लिए जिस भी एक्सपेंसेस को इनकर किया जाता है उसे ही हम लोग प्रिलिमिनरी एक्सपेंसेस कहते हैं. द पोर्शन ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस और द एक्सपेंसेस दैट इज इनकर्ड in the formation of an enterprise or a company is called preliminary expenses. These include legal, accounting, and share issue expenses incurred for formation of an enterprise. So, what is preliminary expense? Preliminary expense is an expense relating to the formation of an enterprise. The expenses incurred while creating a company or formation of a company or enterprise is known as preliminary expense. These include these include legal, accounting, share issue expenses incurred in the formation of an enterprise. Our next topic is prepaid expenses. What is a prepaid expense? Prepaid expense is payment for expense in an accounting period, the benefit for which will accrue in the subsequent accounting period or accounting periods. Prepaid expense is that payment of an expense, the benefit of which expense would be enjoyed or would be accrued in upcoming accounting periods. प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस वो एक्सपेंस है जो भी इस साल में इस अकाउंटिंग पीरियड में पे किया गया है, लेकिन इस एक्सपेंस का जो बेनिफिट है वो मिलेगा अगले कुछ अकाउंटिंग पीरियड्स में. उसे ही हम लोग प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस कहते हैं. Prepaid expenses is a payment of and for expenses, a payment for expense in an accounting period. इस accounting period में, current accounting period में एक expense का payment, जिस भी expense का benefit, the benefit of which would accrue in subsequent accounting periods और periods. अगले accounting period में या फिर अगले 2-3 साल बाद जिसका बेनिफिट मिलेगा, जिस एक्सपेंस का बेनिफिट मिलेगा, उसे ही हम लोग कहते हैं प्रीपेड एक्सपेंस. Our next topic is prime cost. Prime cost is the total cost of direct materials, direct wages and other direct production expenses. Prime cost वो total cost है, total cost of what? Total cost of direct materials, direct wages and direct production expenses. जो भी direct expenses है, material खरीदने का, wages, direct wages to producer, जो workers लोग हैं उनको wages देने का, या फिर जो production expense है जो directly related to the product है, उसको, उसका total एक sum को हम लोग कहेंगे prime cost. So prime cost is the total cost. Prime cost is एक total cost है of direct materials, direct wages, direct production expenses. For example, I am producing a smartphone. Yes, I am a smartphone producing organization or smartphone producing company. To produce one smartphone, I am incurring a cost of rupees 100. Among this rupees 100, the total expense of one smartphone is rupees 100. Among this rupees 100, I am purchasing direct materials of rupees 20. For example, I am buying a processor chip, I am buying a camera module, I am buying a screen touch module. This costs me around 20 rupees. I am also paying to the wages 30 rupees. The workers who are assembling the products to produce one smartphone, I am paying rupees 30 to them. This is a direct wage. And also, I am running a machinery. That working of a machinery costs me around rupees 30. 30 per product or 30 per smartphone. So, what is my expense? 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. This is the, sorry. So this is my direct expense. This portion is my direct expense, 80 rupees, and the rest, 20 rupees, is my indirect expenses. For example, I am incurring some costs. I am incurring some expenses in the selling purpose. I am selling. I am paying money. I am doing some expenditure to sell my phone. And in that case, I'm spending rupees 20 for the advertisement and etc. That is indirect. That is indirect to me. Indirect expenses for me. So this is the direct expense or prime cost, the direct cost for direct materials, the cost for direct wages, the cost for direct production expenses. This forms up the prime cost. And this is the indirect expense. This portion is the indirect expense which I am incurring to sell the product or make the product saleable, or to bring the product, produce product in a saleable form. So this is my total expenditure in producing a product. This is the prime cost and this is the other expenses. I hope it's clear. If you are having any doubt, please write to me in the comment section. I would try my level best to solve your doubt. So moving to the next topic. Let me erase it first. So prime cost is done. Our next topic is prior period item. So yes, prior period item. Prior period items are income or expenses which arise in the current period as a result of errors or omissions in the preparation of financial statements of one or more prior periods. Prior period items are that incomes or expenses which arise in the current period. जो भी इनकम और एक्सपेंस जो इस करंट अकाउंटिंग पीरियड में हो रहा है या फिर इनकर किया गया है एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ एनी एरर और ओमिशन इन पास्ट अकाउंटिंग पीरियड्स. In accounting errors or mistakes in preparation of financial statements in prior periods. अगले साल का फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में कुछ गलती है, प्रिपेयर करने के वक्त कुछ गलती हो गया था जिसके लिए मुझे आज कुछ इनकम या फिर एक्सपेंस हो रहा है, उसे हम लोग प्रायर पीरियड आइटम कहते हैं. प्रायर पीरियड आइटम आर दोज आइटम्स दैट इज इनकम्स और एक्सपेंसेस which arise in the current period, in the current accounting period, as a result of errors or omissions in the preparation of financial statements of one or more prior periods. So, what is prior period item? It is an income or expense, that is an item, financial statements item, which arise in the current period, as a result of error or omission in preparation of financial statements of one or more prior periods. So this term prior period is very important. Prior period and current period. So our next topic is profit or loss. So we all know if there is a surplus or there is any excess in the proceeds from the sale of a product or rendering of service over the costs incurred, so in that case it is a profit. If there is any deficit, there is no excess but there is a deficit, it is a loss. So what is profit or loss? Profit or loss is a general term for the excess of revenue over related costs. जो भी related cost है उसके regarding या फिर उससे related जो भी revenue है, जब रेवेन्यू एक्सेस हो जाता है उस कॉस्ट से, तब हम लोग उसे प्रॉफिट कहते हैं. जब रेवेन्यू लेस होता है कॉस्ट रिलेटेड कॉस्ट से, दैट इज अगर जो रिलेटेड कॉस्ट है वो रेवेन्यू से ज्यादा है, तब हम उसे लॉस कहते हैं. क्यों? वो एक्सेस नहीं रहता है, वो डेफिसिट बन जाता है. सो व्हाट इज अ प्रॉफिट और लॉस? प्रॉफिट और लॉस इज अ जनरल टर्म for the excess of revenue over related cost. Excess of revenue over related cost. When the result of this computation is negative, it is referred to as loss. When negative, it is referred to as loss. So our next topic is profit and loss account. So what is a profit and loss account? In the previous video, in the part 4 video, we have discussed about income and expenditure statement of a not-for-profit organization. Similarly, for a profit-oriented organization, that income and expenditures account is known or is called as profit and loss account. So, a profit and loss account is a financial statement which presents the revenues and expenses of an enterprise for an accounting period and shows the excess of revenues over expenses or vice versa. It is also called a profit and loss account. Profit and loss statement. Profit and loss account is a financial statement which presents the revenues and expenses. Profit and loss account is a financial statement. Obviously, in accountancy, we deal with financial statements. Is a financial statement which presents revenues and expenses. This is a profit and loss account is a financial statement which showcases or presents the revenues and expenses of an enterprise for an accounting period, for a limited accounting period with one defined starting and a defined ending, and shows the excess of revenues or over expenses or vice versa. Excess of revenues over expenses or expenses of excess of revenues over expenses or excess of expenses over revenue. It is also known as profit and loss account. Yes, profit and loss account is known as profit and loss account. It is also known as profit and loss statement. This would become statement. It is also known as profit and loss statement. So yes, profit and loss statement is prepared by companies. Companies prepare profit and loss statement, and other type of business organizations, for example, a sole proprietor or a firm prepares a profit and loss account. Our next topic is promissory note. So, a promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or currency note, containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. Very confusing, right? So, promissory note is an instrument. It is a financial instrument. In writing, yes, it must be in writing, not being a bank note or currency note. That promissory note is a written instrument that is not a bank note, that is not a currency note, containing an unconditional undertaking. The condition, there should be no condition in the payment or in fulfilling the promissory note. If there is any condition, then it would not become a promissory note. This promissory note should be unconditional. There should be an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker. जो promissory note को बना रहा है या फिर ड्रॉ कर रहा है, उसे उस promissory note को sign करना पड़ेगा. To pay a certain sum of money. To pay, there is a promise to pay a certain sum of money only to or only to the giver, only to the drawer, maker. So yes, in case of a financial instrument, there is a maker and other one is the taker. So the taker of that promissory note should be drawn for the taker, or that should be payable to the taker or to the order of the taker to whom it should be paid, that must be mentioned by the taker to a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument, or to the person. It can be payable to the person who is the taker, that is whose name is written in the promissory note, or to the order of the taker who has been mentioned by the taker to be payable, or to the bearer of the instrument who bears the instrument at the time of payment. The payment must be given to him. So I must give an example. Let me draw up an example over here. So yes, for example, this is a banknote. Sorry, this is a promissory note. Let me do it again. For example, this is a promissory note. I am making this promissory note. So in this case, I would write over here I SJL promise to pay rupees 1 lakh to sorry to Mr. Z or bearer, and after that I need to sign over here. Suppose this is my signature. Okay, yes. So this is a promissory note. This is an very simple example of a promissory note. So yes, ISL promised to pay rupees 1 lakh to Mr. Z or bearer and my signature. So what does the definition say? Promissory note is an instrument in writing. Yes, this is in writing. This is in writing. I have written it. Should be in writing, not being a banknote or currency note. This is not a currency note. Containing an unconditional undertaking. There is no condition mentioned. I will pay rupees 1 lakh if he dies or she dies. I have not said like that. I have said I shall pay. I will pay. This is the case. This is an unconditional undertaking. I have not mentioned any condition. Then signed by the maker. I am the maker and I have signed over here. This is my signature. Signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money. I promise to pay a certain sum of money. So what is the certain sum of money? The certain sum of money is rupees 1 lakh to the person or to the order of certain person. To the person. Who is the person? Mr. Z. Or to the bearer. Bearer or to the bearer. So I hope this is clear what is a promissory note. So promissory note would be taught to you, or you would come across the promissory note, the term promissory note, in your CA foundation classes itself while learning about bills of exchange. So let us understand this. Promissory note. A promissory note is an instrument, is a financial instrument in writing. It must be in writing. It is mandatory. Promissory note should be in writing, not being a banknote or currency note containing an unconditional undertaking. There must be an unconditional undertaking. Then signed by the maker. The maker of the promissory note should make a sign to it to pay a certain sum of money. The money amount should be certain only to the order or certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. Next topic, provision. So what is a provision? A provision is an amount written off or retained by way of providing for depreciation or diminution in the value of assets, or retained by way of providing for a known liability, the amount of which cannot be determined with substantial accuracy. तो provision क्या है? What is provision? Provision is an amount. Provision is a monetary amount written off or retained. That what, from where it is retained? From the profits or surplus. So provision is an amount that is written off or retained for providing a depreciation or diminution in the value of an asset, or retained for to complete or to pay a liability, the value of which liability is not correctly or accurately determinable. So in that case, what is provision? Provision is an amount written off or retained. It is an amount written off or retained by way of providing a depreciation or diminution in the value of an asset, or retained by way of providing for a known liability. The liability is known, but the value of which cannot be determined with substantial accuracy. Our next topic is provision for doubtful debt. So, what is provision for doubtful debt? A provision made for debts considered doubtful of recovery. जो भी डेट डाउटफुल है, जिसका भी डाउट है, एक डेट है मेरे पास, मैं एक पर्सन को एक लोन दिया हूं लेकिन उसका जो रिकवरी का चांस है वो बहुत कम है, उस डेट का जो डाउटफुलनेस है उसके रिगार्डिंग जो भी प्रोविजन क्रिएट किया जाता है उसे ही हम लोग प्रोविजन फॉर डाउटफुल डेट कहते हैं. अ प्रोविजन दैट इज क्रिएटेड फॉर अ डेट which is doubtful, whose recovery is doubtful, is known as provision for doubtful debt. So what is provision for doubtful debt? It is a provision made for debts considered doubtful of recovery. Our next concept is prudence. So prudence is in detail covered in part 2 in unit 2 video. It's not covered in part 2, but it is covered in chapter 1 unit 2 in this channel itself. So you can go back to my channel, you can scroll down, and also you can see the video of unit 2 to understand prudence concept. So what is prudence? Prudence is a concept. It is an accounting concept of care and caution used in accounting, according to which, in the view of the uncertainty attached to future events, profits are not anticipated but recognized only when realized, though not necessarily in cash. Under this concept, provision is made for all known liabilities and losses, even though the amount cannot be determined with certainty and represents only a best estimate in the light of available information. So, what does prudence concept say? Prudence is an accounting concept according to which an accountant, while preparing the financial statements, should anticipate for all losses and liabilities, but should not consider any profit unless it is earned. But if there is a chance of a liability or loss to be incurred, he must write a provision to it. So what is prudence? Prudence एक accounting concept है जिसके अकॉर्डिंग एक अकाउंटेंट जब फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट क्रिएट या फिर प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, कुछ भी लायबिलिटी या फिर लॉस जिसका होने का कुछ भी चांस रहता है, उसके लिए एक प्रोविजन क्रिएट करना जरूरी है. लेकिन अगर एक इनकम या फिर प्रॉफिट होने का चांस रहता है, जब तक उस प्रॉफिट या फिर इनकम अर्न नहीं हो जाता, तब तक कुछ प्रोविजन या फिर रिजर्व नहीं क्रिएट होगा. उसे ही हम लोग प्रूडेंस कंसेप्ट कहते हैं. एंटिसिपेट फॉर ऑल लॉसेस बट डू नॉट अकाउंट for any profit. So what is prudence? Prudence is a concept. It is an accounting concept of care and caution used in accounting, according to which, in view of uncertainty attached to the future events, profits are not anticipated but recognized only when realized. Profits are not anticipated but recognized only when realized, though not necessarily in cash. Under this concept, provision is made for all known liabilities and losses, even though the amount cannot be determined with certainty and represents only a best estimate इन द लाइट ऑफ अवेलेबल इंफॉर्मेशन। एक लॉस का या फिर एक लायबिलिटी का जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन है उसके आधारित एक प्रोविजन को क्रिएट करना जरूरी है। यही है प्रूडेंस कंसेप्ट। Our next topic is redeemable preference shares. So a few minutes ago we have discussed about preference shares or preference share capital. Now it's time for redeemable preference shares. Redeemable preference shares are the preference shares that is repayable either after a fixed or determinable period or at any time decided by the management by giving due notice under certain conditions prescribed by the instrument of incorporation or the terms of issue. रिडीमेबल प्रेफरेंस शेयर वो प्रेफरेंस शेयर है जिसको एक पीरियड ऑफ टाइम के बाद या फिर कुछ कंडीशंस के बाद रिडीम कर देना या फिर लौटा देना, जिसका जो कैश होल्डिंग है जो कंपनी के पास, उस कैश को रिटर्न कर देना शेयर होल्डर्स को अनिवार्य में मैंडेटरी हो जाता है, उसे ही हम लोग रिडीमेबल प्रेफरेंस शेयर कहते हैं। Redeemable preference shares are the preference shares that after a certain period of time or after completion of certain conditions must mandatorily be redeemed by the company and amount should be paid back to the shareholders. That type of preference shares is known as redeemable preference shares. So, according to the study material, redeemable preference shares are the preference share. It is a preference share that is repayable either after a fixed or determined period or at any time decided by the management under certain conditions prescribed by instrument of incorporation or terms of issue. Our next topic is redemption. Redemption is the repayment as per given terms normally used in connection with preference shares and debentures. Redemption जो term है वो related है preference shares से या फिर debentures से। Redemption एक repayment है जो एक given term के बाद normally हो जाता है। So redemption is a repayment as per given terms normally used in connection to preference shares and debentures. Next topic is reserve. What is a reserve? A reserve is the portion of earnings, receipts, or other surplus of an enterprise, whether capital or revenue, appropriated by the management for a general or a specific purpose, other than a provision for depreciation or diminution in the value of assets or for a known liability. रिजर्व क्या है? रिजर्व इज द पोर्शन ऑफ अर्निंग, रिसीट और सरप्लस। रिजर्व वो पोर्शन है, किसका पोर्शन? एक अर्निंग का, रिसीट का या फिर कुछ सरप्लस का, ऑफ एन एंटरप्राइज अप्रोप्रिएटेड बाय द मैनेजमेंट फॉर अ जनरल और स्पेसिफिक पर्पस, एक जनरल पर्पस के लिए या फिर कुछ स्पेसिफिक पर्पस के लिए, अदर देन अ प्रोविजन फॉर डेप्रिसिएशन और डिमिनिशन इन द वैल्यू ऑफ एसेट और लायबिलिटी। रिजर्व जो है वो प्रोविजन नहीं है, लेकिन एक पोर्शन है अर्निंग का जो साइड में रखा जाता है एक स्पेसिफिक पर्पस के लिए या फिर कुछ जनरल पर्पस के लिए, जनरल रीजन के लिए। द रीजंस आर प्राइमरीली ऑफ टू टाइप्स, कैपिटल रिजर्व्स एंड रेवेन्यू रिजर्व्स। दोनों टाइप का रिजर्व होता है, कैपिटल रिजर्व, रेवेन्यू रिजर्व। कैपिटल रिजर्व वो रिजर्व्स है जो कैपिटल एसेट्स का ट्रांजैक्शन से या फिर कैपिटल एसेट्स के लिए क्रिएट होता है, जिसका एक स्पेसिफाइड पर्पस होता है, जिसका यूटिलाइजेशन का एक स्पेसिफाइड पर्पस होता है। रेवेन्यू रिजर्व्स आर दैट रिजर्व्स that are not specified. The usage of revenue reserves is not specified. So what is a reserve? Reserve is the portion of earnings, receipts or surplus of an enterprise appropriated by the management, that is appropriated by the management for general or specific purpose, other than provision for depreciation or diminution in the value of assets or liability. Our next topic is revaluation reserve. Revaluation reserve is a reserve created on the revaluation of assets or net assets of an enterprise represented by the surplus of estimated replacement cost or estimated market values over the book values thereof. Revaluation reserve are that reserve that is created while revaluing an asset or revaluing a net asset that is in excess of the book value or historic value of that asset or net asset. अगर एक एसेट का बुक वैल्यू है ₹100 लेकिन उसको रीवैल्यू किया जा रहा है ₹150 पे, उस डिफरेंस जो है ₹50 उसको हम लोग रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व में क्रेडिट करते हैं. The portion that is appraised from the value or the historic cost of an asset is credited to revaluation reserve. So revaluation reserve is a reserve created on revaluation of assets or net assets of an enterprise represented by the surplus of estimated replacement cost or estimated market value over the book values thereof. Our next topic, residual value. Residual value is the amount which an enterprise expects to obtain from an asset at the end of its useful life after deducting the expected costs of disposal. Residual value वो वैल्यू है जो एक एसेट का जो यूजफुल लाइफ है उसके बाद रह जाता है या फिर उसको सेल करके जो रिकवर किया जाता है माइनस द डिस्पोजेबल एक्सपेंसेस और डिस्पोजल एक्सपेंसेस. So what is a residual value? Residual value is the amount which an enterprise expects to obtain from an asset. It is expected to obtain from an asset at the end of its useful life after deducting the expected cost of disposal. After deducting the cost of disposal, the surplus that is available for disposal of an asset after the end of its useful life, it is known as residual value. For example, I must write or I must show for example, I am having this pen which costs ₹100. Yes, and I have used this pen for 10 years and I have given a 10%, I'm giving a 5% depreciation yearly. So 5% depreciation for 10 years. 5% of ₹100 means 5 for 10 years means ₹50. So ₹50 will go away from this. So I am deducting ₹50 from this. So the residual value is 50. The residual value of this pen is ₹50. But I am selling this pen to another customer. I am selling it to a second-hand customer. So I am selling this pen for say for selling this pen I am incurring a advertising cost of ₹20. I am selling this pen to a customer for which I am advertising for ₹20. In that case, the residual value for the value, this is the disposable expense. The ₹20 is the disposable expense. So for me, the residual value of my asset, my pen, is ₹30. I hope it is clear. So this ₹100 is the book value of my asset, my pen. This is the accumulated depreciation. This is the remaining value after after deducting the accumulated depreciation, this is the selling expense or disposal expense, and this rupees 30 is the residual value. So let me erase this out. Our next topic is revenue or income. What is a revenue or income? Revenue is the gross inflow of cash, receivables, or other consideration arising in the course of ordinary activities of an enterprise from the sale of goods, from rendering of services, and from the use by others of enterprise resources yielding interest, royalties, and dividends. So, what is revenue? Revenue क्या है? Revenue is the gross inflow of cash. Revenue is the gross inflow of cash, receivables or any other consideration. Cash भी हो सकता है और कुछ other receivables भी हो सकता है या फिर कुछ other consideration के रूप में भी हो सकता है, arising from the ordinary course of business, ordinary activities of an enterprise. Ordinary activity of an enterprise क्या हो सकता है? एक बिजनेस के लिए ऑर्डिनरी एक्टिविटी क्या हो सकता है? सेल ऑफ गुड्स हो सकता है, रेंडरिंग ऑफ सर्विस हो सकता है, और यूज एंड फॉर द यूज बाय अदर्स ऑफ एंटरप्राइज रिसोर्सेज यील्डिंग इंटरेस्ट. वो फॉर एग्जांपल एक बिजनेस है जो मोटरसाइकिल्स रेंट पे देता है, उसके लिए ये रेंटिंग दैट इज यूज बाय अदर्स फॉर एंटरप्राइज रिसोर्सेज yielding interest, royalties, and dividends. So, in that case, what is revenue? Revenue is the gross inflow of cash, receivables, and other consideration arising in the ordinary activities of an enterprise. The gross inflow of cash, receivables, or other consideration arising from the ordinary course of business or ordinary activities of an enterprise is known as revenue. Revenue is measured by charges made to customers or clients for goods supplied and services rendered to them, and by the charges and rewards arising from the use of resources by them. In an agency relationship, the revenue is the amount of commission and not the gross inflow of cash, receivables, and other consideration. तो रेवेन्यू क्या है? रेवेन्यू वही अमाउंट है जो एक बिजनेस अपने कस्टमर से चार्ज करता है, वही लिखा हुआ है. रेवेन्यू इज measured by the charge made to the customers or clients for goods supplied or services rendered. Revenue is measured by the charge that is made by the business from the customers for rendering of service or providing or selling a good. If a business is agency related or the business is an agent to other company or other enterprise, then the income of that agency is in the form of commission that is paid by the head company or head firm. In that case, the revenue of that agency company or agency firm would become the commission. That is why in an agency relationship, revenue is the amount of commission and not the gross inflow of cash, receivables, or other consideration. Our next topic is revenue reserve. So, what is a revenue reserve? Any reserve other than capital reserve. Revenue reserve वो जो कुछ भी reserve है जो एक capital reserve नहीं है. Capital reserve is covered in part 2 video. तो revenue reserve क्या है? Revenue reserve एक reserve है जो कि एक कैपिटल रिजर्व नहीं है. वेरी इजी डेफिनेशन. जो भी रिजर्व एक कैपिटल रिजर्व नहीं है वो ही रेवेन्यू रिजर्व है. एनी रिजर्व दैट इज नॉट अ कैपिटल रिजर्व इज अ रेवेन्यू रिजर्व. रेवेन्यू रिजर्व हैज नो स्पेसिफाइड यूसेज और इट्स यूसेज इज नॉट स्पेसिफिकली said or mentioned. Our next topic is right shares. A right share is an allotment of shares or the issue of fresh capital by a corporate enterprise to which a shareholder is entitled on payment by virtue of his holding certain shares in the enterprise in proportion to the numbers of shares already held by him. So, what is a right share? Right share is an allotment of fresh capital or fresh shares that is given to him, or the subscription chance is given to an existing shareholder by the company. So, right share is an allotment of share of issue of fresh capital by a corporate enterprise to which a shareholder is entitled on payment by virtue of his holding certain shares in the enterprise in proportion to the numbers of shares already held by him. एक कंपनी जब एक फ्रेश इशू करता है, फ्रेश इक्विटी शेयर ड्रॉ करता है या फिर पब्लिक को देता है सब्सक्रिप्शन के लिए, तब जो भी एग्जिस्टिंग शेयर होल्डर है उनको एक ऑफर दिया जाता है या फिर एक राइट दिया जाता है ताकि न्यू पब्लिक से पहले एग्जिस्टिंग शेयर होल्डर जो है अपने एग्जिस्टिंग प्रोपोर्शन में कुछ नया शेयर खरीद सके या फिर फ्रेश इक्विटी शेयर को सब्सक्राइब कर सके। उस राइट को जो द राइट दैट इज गिवन बाय द कंपनी टू द शेयर होल्डर्स, द एग्जिस्टिंग शेयर होल्डर्स फॉर सब्सक्राइबिंग टू द फ्रेश इक्विटी शेयर्स in the proportion of shareholding by them is known as right share. Shares allotted to certain categories of debenture holders pursuant to the rights enjoyed by them are sometimes called right shares. Right shares एक डिबेंचर होल्डर को भी दिया जाता है। जो भी डिबेंचर होल्डर का राइट होता है कि वो इक्विटी शेयर खरीद सके, वो भी राइट शेयर के अंडर कवर्ड है। Our next topic is sales turnover, gross turnover or gross sales. Sales turnover is the aggregate amount for which sales are effected or services rendered by an enterprise. जिस भी अमाउंट का सेल एक कंपनी या फिर एक एंटरप्राइज करता है, वो प्रोडक्ट सेल ही हो या फिर एक सर्विस सेल ही हो, उसे ही हम लोग सेल टर्नओवर कहते हैं। सेल टर्नओवर इज द अग्रीगेट अमाउंट, वो एक अग्रीगेट या फिर एक टोटल अमाउंट है फॉर विच सेल इज अफेक्टेड, प्रोडक्ट को भी सेल कर सकता है या फिर सर्विस रेंडर भी कर सकता है बाय एन एंटरप्राइज। द टर्म ग्रॉस टर्नओवर एंड नेट टर्नओवर or gross sales and net sales are sometimes used to distinguish the sales aggregate before and after deduction of returns and trade discounts. Gross turnover या फिर जो gross turnover sales turnover ही है। Gross turnover वो turnover है या फिर वो income है जो एक प्रोडक्ट को सेल करके या फिर एक सर्विस को दे के एक एंटरप्राइज अर्न करता है। जब उस ग्रॉस सेल से नेट जो रिटर्न्स है उसे माइनस किया जाता है या फिर ट्रेड डिस्काउंट्स को माइनस किया जाता है, तब वहां से निकलता है नेट सेल्स और नेट टर्नओवर। तो यहां पे मैं लिख देना चाहता हूं ग्रॉस सेल्स लेस gross sales less trade discount less returns क्या आता है? नेट सेल्स या फिर नेट टर्नओवर। जब ग्रॉस सेल्स या फिर ग्रॉस टर्नओवर से ट्रेड डिस्काउंट एंड रिटर्न्स माइनस किया जाता है या फिर डिडक्ट किया जाता है, तब आता है नेट सेल्स। आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड दिस। वेरी इजी टॉपिक, वेरी इजी and very understandable from our childhood we are doing such calculations. So our next topic is secured loan. So what is a secured loan? Secured loan is a loan secured wholly or partly against an asset. Secured loan is a loan secured wholly or partly against an asset. जो भी लोन एक एसेट के अगेंस्ट सिक्योर्ड है, पार्शियली हो या फिर होली हो, उसे ही हम लोग सिक्योर्ड लोन कहते हैं. द लोन्स विच इज सिक्योर्ड अगेंस्ट एन एसेट wholly or partially is called a secured loan. Next topic is share capital. Share capital is the aggregate amount of money paid or credited as paid on the shares or stocks of a corporate enterprise. Share capital is the aggregate amount of money. Share capital एक aggregate amount of money है, total amount of money है जो शेयर होल्डर्स है वो कंपनी को देता है या फिर एक कंपनी को अपने शेयर होल्डर से मिलता है या फिर क्रेडिट होता है. शेयर कैपिटल इज द अग्रीगेट अमाउंट ऑफ मनी पेड और क्रेडिटेड एज पेड ऑन द शेयर्स और स्टॉक ऑफ अ कॉर्पोरेट एंटरप्राइज और अ कंपनी. So our next topic is share discount. What is a share discount? The excess of the face value of shares over their issue price. जब फेस वैल्यू ऑफ शेयर है वो इशू प्राइस से ज्यादा है या फिर जो इशू प्राइस है, इशू प्राइस इज द प्राइस एट विच अ शेयर इज इशूड टू द शेयर होल्डर्स. जब इशू प्राइस अपना एक शेयर का फेस वैल्यू से कम हो तब उसे उस जो डिस्काउंट देता, जो लेस अमाउंट है या फिर जो डिफरेंस है उसे हम लोग शेयर डिस्काउंट कहते हैं. When the issue price of a share is less than the face value of the share, the difference is called as share discount. So it can be written as face value less share discount, it gives the issue price. जब issue price अपना एक face value, जब issue price of a share एक शेयर का face value से कम हो तब उस डिफरेंस को शेयर डिस्काउंट कहते हैं. Face value less share discount is equals to issue price. I hope it's understandable, it's easy. Our next topic is shareholders equity. So what is a shareholders equity? Shareholders equity is the interest of the shareholders in the net assets of a corporate enterprise. Shareholder equity एक शेयर होल्डर का, एक जो टोटल ग्रुप ऑफ शेयर होल्डर्स है उसका एक टोटल इंटरेस्ट है अब वो कंपनी पे. द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द शेयर होल्डर्स इक्विटी इज द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ शेयर होल्डर्स इन द नेट एसेट्स ऑफ अ कॉर्पोरेट एंटरप्राइज. एक कंपनी का जो नेट एसेट्स है उसके ऊपर जो शेयर होल्डर्स है उनका इंटरेस्ट या फिर उनका जो इंटरेस्ट है उसे हम लोग शेयर होल्डर्स इक्विटी कहते हैं. However, in the case of liquidation, it is represented by residual assets after meeting prior claims. Residual assets जब liquidate होता है, जब एक कंपनी liquidate होता है तब वो net assets नहीं रहता है, वो residual assets रहता है. Residual asset क्या है? Net asset minus all other prior expenses is equals to residual assets. Our next topic is share issue expenses. Cost incurred in connection with the issue of an allotment of shares. Issue and allotment of shares. What is share issue expenses? Share issue expenses are those costs that is incurred while issuing an allotment of shares. जब एक शेयर को इशू किया जाता है या फिर अलॉट किया जाता है उस वक्त जो कॉस्ट्स को इनकर किया जाता है उसे हम लोग शेयर इशू एक्सपेंसेस कहते हैं। These include legal and professional fees, advertising expenses, शेयर इशू जो हो रहा है उसका एडवर्टाइजमेंट देना पड़ता है, प्रिंटिंग कॉस्ट्स, जो एमओए मेमोरेंडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन या फिर जो आर्टिकल्स ऑफ एसोसिएशन है उसको प्रिंट करने का जो खर्चा है, प्रिंटिंग कॉस्ट, अंडरराइटिंग कमीशन, brokerage, and also expenses in connection with issue of prospectus and allotment of shares. अलॉटमेंट का भी एक्सपेंस होता है या फिर प्रोस्पेक्टस इशू करने का भी एक एक्सपेंस होता है, उन सभी को मिला के होता है शेयर इशू एक्सपेंसेस। और नेक्स्ट टॉपिक इज शेयर वारंट। शेयर वारंट्स आर ऑप्शंस, शेयर वारंट्स और ऑप्शंस आर फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स। Share warrants or options are financial instruments that are given to the holder the right to acquire the equity shares. Share warrants or options are financial instruments that gives the holder of those share warrants the right to acquire equity shares. Equity share को acquire करने का right जो फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट या फिर जो डॉक्यूमेंट देता है उसे हम लोग शेयर वारंट कहते हैं। और नेक्स्ट टॉपिक इज सिक्योरिटीज प्रीमियम, द एक्सेस ऑफ इशू प्राइस ऑफ शेयर्स ओवर देयर फेस वैल्यू। Few minutes before we learned about the share discount. It was when issue price is less than the face value of a share. In this case, the excess of issue price of share over the face value is known as securities premium. जब फेस वैल्यू से इशू प्राइस ज्यादा हो जाता है, वो जो डिफरेंस है उसे हम लोग सिक्योरिटीज प्रीमियम कहते हैं। नेक्स्ट टॉपिक इज सिंकिंग फंड। सिंकिंग फंड इज अ फंड created for the repayment of liability or for the replacement of an asset. A fund created for repayment of liability or replacement of an asset. एक एसेट को रिप्लेस करने के लिए या फिर एक लाइबिलिटी को पे ऑफ करने के लिए जो भी फंड क्रिएट किया जाता है उसे सिंकिंग फंड कहते हैं। The next is straight line method. Straight line method is a depreciation method or method of depreciation. Straight line method is the method under which the periodic charge for depreciation is computed by dividing the depreciable amount of a depreciable asset by the estimated number of years of useful life. जो depreciable asset का वैल्यू है उसे यूजफुल लाइफ से डिवाइड करके जो वैल्यू निकलता है, जो ईयर वाइज या फिर एक अकाउंटिंग पीरियड में इक्वली राइट ऑफ किया जाता है, उस मेथड को, उस डेप्रिसिएशन मेथड को स्ट्रेट लाइन मेथड कहते हैं। सो एज पर स्ट्रेट लाइन मेथड एसेट value divided by useful life. As per straight line method, asset value divided by useful life ये हो जाता है depreciation value. Depreciation value straight line basis पे ऐसे निकलता है, asset value divided by useful life. So what is straight line method? Straight line method is a depreciation method or method of calculation of depreciation under which the depreciation is computed by dividing the depreciable amount of a depreciable asset by estimated number of years of useful life. So यहाँ पे straight line method is a method of depreciation. Straight line method is a method of depreciation. Our next topic is subscribed share capital. Subscribed share capital is that portion of share capital that is subscribed by the shareholders. जो shareholders है वो जिस portion of share capital का subscribe कर लेता है उसे हम लोग subscribed share capital कहते हैं. Subscribed share capital is that portion of issued share capital which has actually been subscribed and allotted. इशूड शेयर का वो पोर्शन जो शेयर होल्डर्स के द्वारा सब्सक्राइब एंड अलॉट किया जाता है उसे हम लोग सब्सक्राइब शेयर कैपिटल कहते हैं. दिस इंक्लूड्स बोनस शेयर्स अलॉटेड बाय कॉर्पोरेट एंटरप्राइज. Substance over form was also completed or covered in Unit 2 video. So if you have not done Unit 2 video, please go and check it out. Our next topic is substance over form. According to substance over form is an accounting concept. So as per substance over form, an accounting concept according to which the substance and not merely the legal form of a transaction and event governs the accounting treatment and presentation of the financial statements. जो substance है legally वो applicable है, ये valid नहीं है. उस जो item है उसका substance या फिर उसका usefulness होना चाहिए. Users के लिए उस item का या फिर financial item का usefulness होना चाहिए, उसे ही हम लोग substance कहते हैं. अगर एक financial item substance है तब भी उसे फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में लिखा जाएगा या फिर मेंशन किया जाएगा. Substance over form is an accounting concept according to which the substance and not merely the legal form of transactions and events governs their accounting treatment and presentation in financial statements. So I'm giving a break of 2 minutes. Go and get your water fast. A 2 minutes break. Pause the video and come fast. Okay? So we are back. Yes, I hope your break is done. We will end this chapter today itself. Okay. Our next topic is sundry creditors, trade creditors or trade payables. ये तीनों एक ही टर्म है. Sundry creditors, trade creditors or trade payables. Sundry creditors is the amount owed by an enterprise on account of goods purchased or services rendered. This would be rendered. Okay, no, sorry. This would be received itself. Sundry creditors is the amount owed by an enterprise. An enterprise or business is liable to pay. So creditor is a liability. Sundry creditors or trade creditors is the amount owed by an enterprise in account of goods purchased or services received or in respect of contractual obligations. Sundry creditors, trade creditors, trade payables, these are all similar terms. ये सब same ही है. Is the amount owed by an enterprise. ये एक liability है. Sundry creditor is liable to pay. The creditor is liability to pay. Is amount owed by an enterprise for goods purchased, services received or contractual obligation. Also termed as trade creditors, accounts payable or trade payable. Our next topic is sundry debtors, just the opposite of sundry creditors. Sundry debtors, trade debtors and trade receivables are almost the same, are similar to each other, only different terms. Sundry creditors is a person from whom amounts are due for goods sold or services rendered. Persons from whom amounts are due for goods sold or services rendered and respect of contractual obligations. सन्ड्री क्रेडिटर एक एसेट है या फिर रिसीवेबल है. जब एक रिसीवेबल होता है तब सन्ड्री डेटर्स होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, दिस इज अ पर्सन एंड दिस इज अ पर्सन. This is A and this is B. A sold goods to B in that case, and B said, I will pay you later after 5 months. In that case, when A sold the goods to B, B is the creditor for A. For A, B is the creditor. Sorry, I'm deleting this. For example, there are two persons, A and B. A sold goods to B. In that case, A has sold. A is the creditor. In respect of B, A is the creditor. In B's respect, A is the creditor, and in respect of A, B is the debtor. B is liable to pay, so it is an asset for A. That is why B is debtor to A. In respect of B, A is a creditor. A is payable. The person B must pay to A, and that is why A is the creditor in respect of B. Now our next topic, surplus. Surplus is the credit balance in the profit and loss statement after providing for proposed appropriations. Example, dividends and surplus. जब प्रॉफिट से एप्रोप्रिएशन हो जाता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल डिविडेंड्स पे हो जाता है या फिर रिजर्व्स को क्रिएट किया जाता है, उसके बाद जो रिमेनिंग अमाउंट है उसे सरप्लस कहते हैं. द रिमेनिंग अमाउंट आफ्टर अप्रोप्रिएशन ऑफ डिविडेंड एंड रिजर्व्स फ्रॉम द प्रॉफिट ऑफ अ कंपनी इज नोन एज सरप्लस. Surplus is the credit balance of profit and loss statement after providing for proposed appropriations. Example, dividend or surplus. Our next topic is trade discount. Trade discount is a reduction granted by the supplier from the list price of goods or services on business considerations other than for prompt payment. प्रॉम्प्ट पेमेंट या फिर क्विक पेमेंट का कंडीशन से अलावा कुछ भी बिजनेस कनेक्शन से रिलेटेड जो डिस्काउंट है उसे ट्रेड डिस्काउंट कहते हैं. ट्रेड डिस्काउंट इज द रिडक्शन ग्रांटेड बाय द सप्लायर. सप्लायर जो रिडक्शन अलाउ करता है फ्रॉम द लिस्ट प्राइस ऑफ द गुड्स. लिस्ट प्राइस से जो भी रिडक्शन होता है ऑफ गुड्स और सर्विसेज ऑन बिजनेस कंसिडरेशंस के ऊपर डिपेंड करके. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बल्क में गुड्स खरीदना या फिर बल्क में सर्विस लेना, इसके लिए जो भी डिस्काउंट दिया जाता है, जो भी डिस्काउंट प्रॉम्प्ट पेमेंट या फिर क्विक पेमेंट के रीजन से अलावा दिया जाता है, कुछ बिजनेस कंसिडरेशन के लिए दिया जाता है, उसे हम लोग ट्रेड डिस्काउंट कहते हैं, अदर देन फॉर प्रॉम्प्ट पेमेंट. Our next topic is unexpired cost. Unexpired cost is that portion of an expenditure whose benefit has not yet been exhausted. जो भी एक्सपेंस है जिसका बेनिफिट खत्म नहीं हो गया है उसे हम लोग unexpired cost कहते हैं. Our next topic is unissued share capital. जो भी ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल का पोर्शन जो भी अब तक इशू नहीं किया गया है कंपनी के द्वारा, उसे हम लोग अनइश्यूड शेयर कैपिटल कहते हैं. द पोर्शन ऑफ ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल दैट इज नॉट इशूड बाय द कंपनी स्टिल नाउ इज नोन एज अनइश्यूड शेयर कैपिटल. Unissued share capital is the portion of authorized share capital for which shares has not been offered for subscription. Our next topic is unpaid dividend. Unpaid dividend is the dividend which has been declared by a corporate enterprise but has not been paid. जो भी डिविडेंड डिक्लेयर किया जा चुका है लेकिन पे नहीं हुआ है उसे हम अनपेड डिविडेंड कहते हैं. The dividend which is already declared by the company but is not paid by this time or still now is known as unpaid dividend. Dividend which has been declared by the company but has not been paid is known as unpaid dividend. Or warrant or check in respect of whereof has not been dispatched within the period. Check has not been warrant or check has not been dispatched, for that is the case of not being paid. In that case, the dividend which has been declared but has not been paid is known as unpaid dividend. The next and last topic of this video and also this long chapter is useful life. What is the useful life? Useful life is either the period over which a depreciable asset is expected to be used by the enterprise, or the number of production or similar units expected to be obtained from the use of the asset of an enterprise. Useful life is either the period over which a depreciable asset is expected to be used, or the number of production or similar units expected to be obtained from an asset. एक एसेट का जो भी यूजफुल लाइफ है उसका मतलब क्या है? उस एसेट का जो लाइफ है या फिर एक्सपेक्टेड यूजेबल लाइफ है उसे हम लोग यूजफुल लाइफ कहते हैं. या फिर एक एसेट का जो भी प्रोड्यूसिंग कैपेबिलिटी है या फिर प्रोडक्शन यूनिट का जो कैपेबिलिटी है, एक मशीनरी उसके लाइफ साइकिल में 5000 गुड्स को प्रोड्यूस करेगा, उस 5000 गुड्स को भी हम यूजफुल लाइफ में कैलकुलेट करते हैं. अगर ये कहा जाता है कि एक मशीनरी 10 इयर्स तक काम करेगा या फिर 10 इयर्स तक फंक्शनिंग कंडीशन में रहेगा, 10 इयर्स इज द यूजफुल लाइफ. सो we have come to an end of this chapter, this long chapter, and also our part 5 video. If you did like this video, give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel for more such videos. My next video is on Chapter 1 Theoretical Framework Unit 4 and that will be uploaded tomorrow itself. So keep subscribed, stay safe, stay blessed and study well. Thank you. Signing off.